My stepsister bullied me throughout childhood, then stole my fiancé and ran away a week before our wedding while sending me mocking postcards of their honeymoon for months. Now she's back 5 years later begging me to hire her alcoholic husband because they're broke and desperate, but she lost her inheritance to dad's business when she betrayed our family, and I own everything she was supposed to have, so I laughed in her face and called security when she made a scene at my office. 5 years ago, I thought my life was perfect. I was 26, engaged to my college sweetheart Ryan, and planning what I believed would be the wedding of my dreams. I had no idea that my stepsister Vanessa was about to destroy everything I had built and send my life spiraling into chaos. But let me start from the beginning, because the story of Vanessa's betrayal really began when we were children. I'm 31 now, and Vanessa is the same age. Our parents married when we were both 10 years old, after my mother Claire met Vanessa's father David at a parent-teacher conference. My biological father had died in a car accident when I was 7, and Vanessa's mother had abandoned her family when Vanessa was just 5 years old. You'd think that two kids who had both lost a parent might bond over their shared experience, but Vanessa saw my arrival in her life as a threat from day one. She had been the center of David's world for 5 years, and suddenly she was expected to share her father with not just my mother, but with me as well. David owned a successful chain of organic grocery stores called Green Valley Markets that he had built from a single location into 12 stores across 3 states. The business was his pride and joy, and everyone always assumed that Vanessa would inherit it someday since she was his biological daughter and had always shown an interest in the family business. From the moment our parents married, Vanessa made my life a living hell. She would hide my homework, spread rumors about me at school, and find creative ways to get me in trouble with our parents. When we were in middle school, she convinced a group of her friends to start a campaign of harassment against me that included putting thumbtacks in my backpack, writing cruel messages on my locker, and starting rumors that I had various disgusting diseases. The worst incident happened when we were 14. Vanessa had been accepted into the National Honor Society at our high school, and David was planning to take her out for a special celebration dinner. The night before the dinner, Vanessa planted stolen jewelry from a local department store in my bedroom and then discovered it while our parents were home. I had never stolen anything in my life, but the evidence was there, and Vanessa played the part of the shocked and disappointed sister perfectly. David was furious and grounded me for 2 months, while Vanessa got extra praise for being such an honest and responsible daughter by turning me in. It wasn't until years later that Vanessa's friend Emma, who had helped with the frame-up, got drunk at a party and admitted what they had done. By then, the damage to my relationship with David had been done. He apologized when he learned the truth, but I could tell that part of him still wondered if I might be capable of deception. Throughout high school, Vanessa continued her campaign of psychological warfare. She would sabotage my relationships with boys by spreading rumors or flirting with them herself. She got herself elected to student council and used her position to make sure I was excluded from school activities and events. She even convinced our parents that I was struggling with my mental health and needed therapy, which led to months of awkward sessions with a counselor who couldn't figure out why I seemed so anxious and paranoid. The only respite I got was when I left for college. I chose a university that was 8 hours away from home, partially because it had an excellent journalism program, but mostly because I needed distance from Vanessa and her constant manipulation. College was the first time in my life that I felt truly free. Without Vanessa there to undermine me, I discovered that I was actually confident, funny, and well-liked. I joined the campus newspaper, made genuine friends, and for the first time in years, I started to believe that maybe I wasn't the problem after all. That's where I met Ryan Martinez, a pre-med student who was 2 years ahead of me. Ryan was everything I had ever wanted in a partner: kind, intelligent, ambitious, and completely uninterested in playing games or engaging in drama. We started dating during my sophomore year, and by the time I graduated, we were living together and talking about marriage. Ryan had grown up in a loving, stable family, and he couldn't understand why I was so nervous about bringing him home to meet my parents. I had told him about my difficult relationship with Vanessa, but I had downplayed the extent of her cruelty because I didn't want to sound paranoid or bitter. When I finally brought Ryan home for Thanksgiving during my senior year, I was cautiously optimistic. Vanessa had seemed immature during our years apart, and she was polite and friendly to Ryan during dinner. She asked thoughtful questions about his medical school plans and even complimented me on finding such a great guy. I was so grateful for what seemed like a truce that I didn't notice the way Vanessa's eyes lingered on Ryan, or how she found excuses to touch his arm while talking to him. I was just relieved that she wasn't actively trying to sabotage my relationship for once. After graduation, Ryan and I moved back to my hometown so he could complete his residency at the local hospital. I got a job as a reporter for the regional newspaper, and we rented a small apartment downtown. David offered me a position at Green Valley Markets, but I wanted to build my own career rather than rely on family connections. Vanessa, meanwhile, had graduated with a business degree and immediately joined David at Green Valley Markets as a management trainee. She was clearly being groomed to take over the business eventually, and she threw herself into learning every aspect of the operation. 2 years after we moved back home, Ryan proposed to me on Christmas morning in front of both our families. It was perfect, romantic, thoughtful, and everything I had dreamed of. Vanessa seemed genuinely happy for us and even offered to help with wedding planning, which I thought was a sweet gesture. For the next year, as we planned our wedding, Vanessa was more involved in my life than she had been since we were children. She came dress shopping with me, helped address invitations, and even threw me a beautiful bridal shower. I started to believe that maybe we had finally grown past our childhood issues and could have a real sisterly relationship. I was so naive. What I didn't know was that Vanessa had been systematically seducing Ryan almost from the moment he proposed to me. She would text him under the guise of coordinating wedding plans, then gradually steer the conversations toward more personal topics. She started showing up at the hospital during his breaks, claiming she was in the area for business. She would ask him for advice about her own relationship problems, positioning herself as someone who needed his support and guidance. Ryan later told me that Vanessa had convinced him that I was having second thoughts about the marriage. She claimed that I had confided in her that I felt trapped and was only going through with the wedding because I didn't want to disappoint our families. She told him that I had said I wasn't sure if I was ready for such a serious commitment and that I had been looking at apartments in other cities. None of this was true, of course, but Vanessa was convincing. She had always been an expert manipulator, and Ryan had no reason to suspect that my own stepsister would lie about something so important. The affair began about 3 months before our wedding. Vanessa told Ryan that she had always had feelings for him and that she could see he was unhappy in our relationship. She convinced him that they were meant to be together and that I would ultimately be grateful to be freed from a marriage I supposedly didn't want. I had no idea any of this was happening. Ryan seemed a little distant in the weeks leading up to the wedding, but I attributed it to pre-wedding stress and the pressure of his residency. Vanessa was still playing the part of the supportive sister, helping with last-minute preparations and acting excited about the big day. 1 week before our wedding, I woke up to find a note on my kitchen counter. It was from Ryan, and it explained that he couldn't marry me because he had fallen in love with someone else. He said that he had tried to fight his feelings, but he couldn't deny that he and Vanessa were meant to be together. The note explained that they had eloped the night before and were leaving town immediately. He apologized for the timing and said that he knew this would be devastating, but that it would be worse if he married me while in love with someone else. I read the note 3 times before the words sank in. My fiancé had run away with my stepsister 1 week before our wedding. Everything we had planned, everything I had dreamed of, was gone. The next few hours were a blur of phone calls and cancellations. Ryan's parents were mortified and insisted on covering all the wedding costs, even though they were almost as shocked as I was. My mother was hysterical, and David was so angry that he could barely speak. We managed to cancel the ceremony and reception, but we couldn't get deposits back from most of the vendors. The flowers, the cake, the photographer, it all had to be paid for anyway. Ryan's family covered the $15,000 loss, which was the least they could do given the circumstances. Update 1. The worst part wasn't even the public humiliation of having to tell everyone that my fiancé had run off with my stepsister. The worst part was what came next. 2 weeks after they eloped, I received the first postcard. It was a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, and on the back, Vanessa had written, "Having the most amazing honeymoon. Thanks for letting me find my soulmate. Hope you understand someday that this was meant to be. XOXO, the new Mrs. Martinez." I stared at that postcard for an hour, unable to believe that someone could be so cruel. Vanessa wasn't just in love, she was actively trying to torture me with her happiness. The postcards kept coming. Every few weeks, a new one would arrive from whatever exotic location they were visiting. Bora Bora, Paris, Rome, the Maldives. Each one had a photo of Vanessa and Ryan looking blissfully happy, and each one had a message designed to twist the knife a little deeper. Ryan says he's never been happier. Guess you two just weren't meant to be. Just bought our first house together. Sometimes love really does conquer all. Celebrating our 6-month anniversary in Tuscany. Thanks for bringing us together. The postcards continued for 8 months. 8 months of having my wounds reopened every time I checked my mail. 8 months of being reminded that the man I loved was living his best life with a person who had made my childhood a nightmare. My mother begged me to change my address or get a P.O. box, but I refused. Part of me needed to see how low Vanessa was willing to go. Part of me was documenting her cruelty for reasons I couldn't quite articulate yet. David was devastated by Vanessa's behavior. He had always known she could be difficult, but he had never imagined she was capable of such calculated cruelty. After the 3rd postcard arrived, he called Vanessa and told her that if she didn't stop harassing me, she would be cut off from the family entirely. Vanessa's response was to send a postcard directly to David's office. The picture was of her and Ryan at some tropical resort, and the message said, "Dear Daddy, sorry you're taking sides with a woman who was never even your real daughter. Ryan and I are building our own family now. We don't need yours." That was the final straw. David immediately called his lawyer and had Vanessa removed from his will. He also changed the succession plan for Green Valley Markets, naming me as his heir instead. I tried to talk him out of it. Despite everything Vanessa had done, she was his biological daughter, and the business had always been her birthright. But David was resolute. "Blood doesn't make you family," he told me. "Character does. Vanessa has shown me exactly who she is, and I won't reward that behavior by giving her control of everything I've built." The lawyer drew up new papers making me the primary beneficiary of David's estate and the designated successor for Green Valley Markets. David also insisted that I start working at the company immediately so I could learn the business operations. I was reluctant at first. I loved my job at the newspaper, and I had never particularly wanted to work in retail. But David needed help managing the stores, and after everything our family had been through, I felt obligated to support him. I started as an assistant manager at one of the locations, learning everything from inventory management to customer service. David taught me about vendor relationships, profit margins, and expansion strategies. Within 2 years, I was managing 3 stores and helping to develop the company's online ordering system. When David had a mild heart attack 3 years ago, I took over day-to-day operations while he recovered. I discovered that I actually had a talent for business strategy and employee management. Under my leadership, we opened 2 new locations and increased overall revenue by 15%. David officially retired last year and handed over full control of Green Valley Markets to me. At 31, I was now the CEO of a company worth several $1 million. The irony wasn't lost on me that I had ended up with everything Vanessa had always expected to inherit. I hadn't heard from Vanessa in over 3 years when she showed up at my door last month. I was home on a Saturday afternoon, working on quarterly reports, when my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I barely recognized the woman standing on my porch. Vanessa looked like she had aged 10 years in the 5 years since she had left. Her clothes were worn and ill-fitting, her hair was unkempt, and she had lost so much weight that her face looked gaunt. "Hello, Sophie," she said quietly. "I know you probably don't want to see me, but I need to talk to you." I stood in the doorway, not inviting her in. "What do you want, Vanessa?" "I need your help," she said, and her voice cracked. "Ryan and I? We're in trouble. He lost his medical license 6 months ago because of a drinking problem, and we're about to lose our house. I heard that you're running Green Valley Markets now, and I was hoping you might have a job for him." I stared at her in disbelief. After everything she had done, the stolen fiancé, the cruel postcards, the years of torment, she had the audacity to show up at my door asking for favors. "You want me to give Ryan a job?" I asked. "I know how it sounds," Vanessa said quickly. "I know we hurt you, and I'm sorry about that. But Sophie, we're desperate. We have no money, no prospects, and nowhere to turn. You're the only person we know who has the power to help us." I looked at this broken woman who had once made my life hell, and I felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no pity. Just a cold, empty feeling where all my emotions about Vanessa used to live. "The answer is no," I said simply. "Sophie, please." "No," I repeated, and I started to close the door. Vanessa put her hand out to stop me. "Wait. You don't understand. Ryan's not the same person he was when we left. The pressure of starting over, the guilt about what we did to you, it broke him. He started drinking to cope, and then he couldn't stop. He made mistakes at the hospital, and they suspended his license pending an investigation." "That sounds like a problem," I said. "Sophie, I'm begging you. I know I don't deserve your help, but Ryan didn't know about my history with you when all this started. I manipulated him just like I manipulated everyone else. He's a good person who got caught up in my mess." I almost laughed. Even now, even when she was desperate and broken, Vanessa was still trying to manipulate me. She was trying to make me feel sorry for Ryan, as if he was just an innocent victim in her schemes. "Vanessa, Ryan is a grown man who made his own choices. He chose to have an affair with you while engaged to me. He chose to elope with you a week before our wedding. And he chose to drink himself out of a medical career. None of that is my responsibility." "But you have everything now," Vanessa said, and for the first time, I heard real desperation in her voice. "You have the business that was supposed to be mine. You have Dad's love and respect. You have everything I lost when I made those stupid mistakes. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me?" I looked at her for a long moment, taking in her desperation and her obvious suffering. 5 years ago, seeing Vanessa like this would have been the ultimate revenge fantasy. But now, I just felt tired. "Vanessa, I did forgive you," I said quietly. "I forgave you so I could move on with my life. But forgiveness doesn't mean I owe you anything. You made your choices, and now you get to live with the consequences." I closed the door and locked it, then watched through the window as Vanessa stood on my porch for several minutes before finally walking away. Update 2. I thought that would be the end of it, but Vanessa wasn't done. 3 days after her visit to my house, she showed up at my office. Green Valley Market's corporate headquarters is in a small office building downtown, and Vanessa still knew the building code from her time working there. She walked past our receptionist by claiming she was there for a meeting with me, then barged into my office while I was on a conference call with our vendors. "Sophie, we need to talk," she announced loudly, ignoring the fact that I was clearly in the middle of a business call. I quickly ended the call and stood up. "Vanessa, you can't just walk into my office. If you want to meet with me, you need to make an appointment. I tried calling, but your assistant said you weren't taking my calls," Vanessa said. "Sophie, I'm not leaving until you hear me out." I looked at this woman who had once been positioned to inherit everything I now controlled, and I felt a mixture of pity and disgust. "Fine. You have 5 minutes." Vanessa sat down in the chair across from my desk and immediately started crying. "Sophie, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you in ways that can never be undone. But I've lost everything. Ryan and I are living in a motel room, and we're down to our last $100. I haven't eaten a real meal in 3 days. "That's terrible," I said, and I meant it. "But it's still not my problem." "It could be your solution though," Vanessa said, wiping her eyes. "Think about it, you could hire Ryan for one of the stores. He's smart, he's hardworking when he's sober, and he could be a real asset to the company. And you'd be showing everyone what kind of person you are, someone who's bigger than the past, someone who believes in second chances." I almost admired the way she was trying to manipulate me even in her desperation. She was appealing to my ego, suggesting that helping her would somehow make me look magnanimous and mature. "Vanessa, even if I wanted to help Ryan, which I don't, I wouldn't hire someone with an active substance abuse problem. It would be a liability for the company and unfair to my other employees." "He's getting help," Vanessa said quickly. "He's been to 3 different rehab programs, and he's committed to staying sober. Sophie, you're the only person with the power to give us a fresh start." "No," I said firmly. My answer was no 3 days ago, and it's still no today. "And if you show up here again without an appointment, I'll call security." Vanessa's facade of humility finally cracked. "You know what? You're just like Dad. You pretend to be this good, noble person, but really you're vindictive and cruel. You're enjoying watching me suffer." "I'm not enjoying anything," I said calmly. I'm just not willing to sacrifice my business or my peace of mind to clean up the mess you made of your life. This business should have been mine, Vanessa shouted, standing up so abruptly that she knocked over her chair. I'm his real daughter. I'm the one who was supposed to inherit everything. But you wormed your way into his heart and turned him against me. I didn't turn anyone against you, Vanessa. You did that all by yourself when you stole my fiancé and spent months sending me cruel postcards about it. Those postcards were supposed to help you move on. I was trying to show you that Ryan and I were really in love, that it wasn't just some fling. I stared at her in amazement. Even now, she was trying to rewrite history and make herself the victim. Vanessa, you wrote thanks for letting me find my soulmate on a postcard 2 weeks after you destroyed my wedding. If you think that was helpful, you're even more delusional than I thought. Vanessa picked up a paperweight from my desk and for a moment, I thought she might throw it at me. Instead, she slammed it back down and screamed, "You stole my life. Everything I was supposed to have, you took it. And now you won't even help me when I have nothing left." That's when I pressed the security button under my desk. Within 30 seconds, 2 security guards were in my office, escorting a still screaming Vanessa out of the building. Update 3. I called David immediately after Vanessa was removed from the building, and he was mortified by her behavior. He apologized repeatedly and assured me that he would handle the situation. I'm going to call the police and file a report, he said. This kind of behavior can't be tolerated, even from family. Dad, you don't have to do that, I said. She's desperate and not thinking clearly. Maybe we should just... No, Sophie. I should have put a stop to Vanessa's behavior years ago instead of making excuses for her. I enabled her cruelty by not holding her accountable, and look what it led to. She destroyed your wedding, tormented you for months, and now she's harassing you at your workplace. Enough is enough. David did file a police report, and Vanessa was charged with trespassing and disturbing the peace. She spent 1 night in jail before posting bail, and she was given a restraining order that prohibited her from coming within 500 feet of me or any Green Valley Markets property. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Vanessa left town the next day. Apparently, she and Ryan had been staying with one of her old high school friends, but the friend kicked them out after learning about the incident at my office. Part of me wondered if I had been too harsh. After all, Vanessa was clearly at rock bottom, and I had everything she had once expected to inherit. But then I remembered the postcards, the years of childhood bullying, and the calculated way she had destroyed my wedding, and I realized that my response had been completely appropriate. Vanessa had made her choices. She had chosen to be cruel when she could have been kind. She had chosen to betray family when she could have been loyal. She had chosen to take what wasn't hers when she could have built something of her own. And now she was living with the consequences of those choices. 3 weeks have passed since Vanessa left town, and I've heard nothing from her. David seems relieved that she's gone, though I know he struggles with guilt about how their relationship deteriorated. I failed her as a father, he told me recently. I should have gotten her help when she was young instead of just hoping she would grow out of her problems. Dad, you tried everything, I reminded him. You got her therapy, you set boundaries, you gave her chances to make amends. At some point, people have to take responsibility for their own choices. I know, he said sadly. But she's still my daughter. I still love her, even after everything she's done. I understand his feelings, but I don't share them. Whatever love I once had for Vanessa died the day she sent me that first postcard. She made it clear that she saw my pain as entertainment, my heartbreak as her victory. Now I'm 31 years old, running a successful business, and building a life free from the chaos and manipulation that defined my childhood. I'm dating a wonderful man named Marcus who treats me with the respect and kindness I deserve. We're taking things slowly, but I'm optimistic about our future together. Sometimes I think about what my life would have been like if Vanessa had never stolen Ryan. Would we have been happy? Would our marriage have lasted? I'll never know, but I've come to believe that Vanessa actually did me a favor by showing me Ryan's true character before I was legally bound to him. A man who could be manipulated into betraying his fiancée a week before their wedding was never worthy of my love anyway. As for Vanessa, I hope she finds a way to turn her life around, but I won't be part of that journey. I've given her enough of my time, energy, and emotional well-being. From now on, my focus is on building the future I deserve, one that's free from her manipulation and cruelty. The business that was supposed to be hers is thriving under my leadership. The family that was supposed to be hers has embraced me as their true daughter. And the happiness that she tried to steal from me has been rebuilt on a foundation that she can never touch. Sometimes karma doesn't require any action on your part. Sometimes it just requires patience and the wisdom to step out of the way while toxic people destroy themselves. Vanessa taught me that lesson, and for that, I suppose I should thank her. But I won't be sending any postcards.